We all know the story of Daniel in the lion's den, but what many people miss as they read this familiar story are all the connections to the story of Jesus dying for us. You see, Daniel is a Christ figure. It says that they could find nothing wrong with Daniel except his worship of God. So basically what they're saying in this story is Daniel was perfect and Jesus was perfect. In fact, the only way they could find a reason to accuse Jesus to even be killed was a religious thing. Daniel also was taken to the lion's den, and it said he was put in and they rolled a big stone over the opening, and that stone symbolized finality. Daniel has lost and he is lost. And they also rolled a big stone over the tomb where Jesus went in. And the enemies of Jesus were saying that Jesus is done. He is lost forever. There was a finality for that as well. Daniel's stone was sealed with the king's signet ring and with the rings of the nobles. And Pilate also sealed the stone that was rolled over Jesus's tomb. Early in the morning, the stone is rolled away and Daniel emerges unscathed. In fact, he doesn't just come out barely surviving, which would be a miracle in itself. He comes out glorified, meaning the king himself is saying, this guy's amazing. We're going to tell the whole world about Daniel's God. And the same thing happens with Jesus. He comes out, not, oh, he was just passed out from the cross, we need to nurse him back to health. But he comes out glorified, completely healed. The story of Daniel results in a huge witnessing for the kingdom of God. And Darius writes a massive letter to the entire world that he has conquered and says, worship the God of Daniel. He is so good. He's amazing. He's able to save. And the same thing happens when Jesus comes out. He gives his disciples a message. He says, hey, now you can worship God. He is able to save. And I've read the story of Daniel so many times, and I've always made it about me. How can I be more like Daniel? I need to pray 3 times a day. I need to stand strong. I need to fight those lions. And reading it this morning, I just felt God say, you know, the story's not about you. It's about me. You see, Daniel 3 times a day prayed, and I was looking through my Greek concordance and Hebrew concordance, and the word for kneel, because it says 3 times a day Daniel kneeled and prayed. That word kneel in Hebrew has a play on it. It means to kneel and to bless. And so Daniel 3 times a day is blessing God. And in his prayer, it's saying he gave thanks to God. And then in the specific prayer that he was caught, it said he was asking God for help. And many times prayer has become so confusing and complicated, and it's this spiritual discipline that you've got to be really good at. It's like performing spiritual gymnastics. When Daniel shows us, we're just blessing God. We're just thanking him. We're just asking for help. And that's so simple, even a little child can do it. What are you thankful for today? What do you need help with today? And the cool thing about Daniel doing it 3 times a day is that it was, we normally eat 3 times a day. 3 times a day we get hungry physically, and I get hangry, and I need that recharge. And spiritually, it's the same way. I've noticed in my life that in the morning, I read my Bible, I have a good worship, I do one of those videos, and I am just on fire, I'm locked in. But by the evening time, my motivation is much weaker. My connection is much weaker. And Daniel's example is showing us, here's how we can plug in to that strength. Here's how we can be like Jesus. As Christians, we're supposed to be like little Christ figures. And please don't get me wrong and think I'm being disrespectful here, but just how Daniel, who wasn't a perfect man, but in the story he was portrayed as a Christ figure, so the symbols of his life could encourage us. And it's the same way with you and me. Whether you feel like you're a great Christian or not, or you're just beginning to follow Jesus, or you've followed him for years, you're called to be a small Christ figure, to be a symbol of him. You see, no one on earth today can see Christ. They can't touch him. They can't talk to him. They can't ask him questions. But they can see us. And God is using us to show others that he is trustworthy. You see, that was Jesus' big mission. He said, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. He wanted people to trust in God. And he came to show that God is trustworthy. And that's what we can do as well. But I can't do it if I'm not connected. And so the story of Daniel is an encouragement that God can use us to witness. It's an encouragement that God can fight the lions and close their mouths in our own lives. And it's an encouragement to action, a call to bless God 3 times a day, to spend some time in prayer. You see, it's impossible for me to shut the lion's mouth. I just can't do it. But I can pray, and I can stop and thank God for something. I can stop and ask God for help. See, God always asks us to do something so that he can do the impossible. God's got this. And the story of Daniel is so rich. I hope you spent some time yourself reading Daniel 6 and letting God speak to your fears and to your life, because there's so much richness there. So whether you are like Daniel at the beginning of the story, you're large and in charge, you're successful and prosperous, or whether you're like Daniel in the middle of the story, where the pressure's on and everyone's watching you, and are you going to do the right thing? Or whether you're Daniel in the darkest part of the story, where the stone has been rolled over you, it looks like it's over. You're surrounded by lions and you feel like you're all alone. The message is the same. God's got this. He loves you very much. And he wants you to know that you can trust in him. And if we just grab onto that and thank him for that, he'll show up and he'll shut the lions' mouths in your life too. God bless.